Yeah, so this is basically your fifth class, right? Fifth class in your current affairs program. Okay. So we'll start with a topic which is already asked in your PYQs, right? That is ice cube. So this was asked basically nearly 7-8 years back. Okay. It is basically a particle detector which was focused on neutrinos, right? So this is already a UPSC PYQ question on the same, right? So along the same lines in the current affairs, we have another important news that you need to cover, that is cubic kilometers neutrino telescope. Okay, so it is an European research infrastructure and it is focusing specifically on Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so first and the foremost thing, why are we focusing on neutrinos? Because neutrinos basically are the ones which do not interact or interact very less with other particles, because of which we would be able to tell a lot more about the origin of the universe from studying neutrinos. Okay, so at the same time, it is not just limited to origin of the universe, but also dark matter, supernova, all of it we can uh, study, or we can come to a better understanding by studying neutrinos. Okay, so that is the purpose of this telescope. Fine. So here we have cubic kilometer neutrino telescope. It is my voice audible to everyone? I hope this is, for some students it is breaking. Is my voice clear? Clear? Little low. Okay. Now I think it would be fine. Yes, it's perfectly fine. Okay. All right. So here, yeah, so as I was saying, this telescope is basically focusing on neutrinos. Okay. So here, this telescope, again, it is much like the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory. And this Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory was the first telescope to detect high energy neutrinos. So this has already been asked. Now we are trying to do the same through another kind of telescope, that is cubic kilometer neutrino telescope. Okay. Now, how is this different from the earlier one? So here you can see this was totally encompassed in ice cube neutrino observatory, whereas this one is directly observed, or this neutrino telescope is being put under the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so underwater telescope basically. Okay, so that is the basic difference here. Okay, so now why are we studying high energy neutrinos? Yes, from that we would be able to tell about supernova, gamma ray bursts, colliding stars, all of it. Okay, so from which we will also be able to understand our about our Milky Way galaxy, that is center of our Milky Way galaxy. Fine. Even dark matter we will be able to find. Okay, so these are certain reasons why we focus on studying high energy neutrinos. Fine. Now, so now why are scientists now building underwater neutrino telescopes here? So here to observe neutrinos. So as we have discussed, neutrinos do not generally interact with other particles. So by and large, when they do, they produce flashes of light. Okay, so for that to be observed in the minutest scale, it has been put under water. Okay, so here that is what is given. That is detectors that are there. Soumya, it is an issue from your end. Check your network. Okay, not from my end. Fine. So here basically detectors that are there in the neutrino telescope, they are able to detect these interactions of neutrinos with water particles. Okay, so that is why the scientists are now building underwater neutrino telescopes. Okay, and it is considered that they would be more efficient than ice cubes. Okay, so please go through this aspect. Here, what you should focus upon is this telescope that is there. Where are we focusing on? Okay, this telescope is basically in Mediterranean Sea. Okay, now the second aspect is why are we focusing on the same? So certain reasons which we have seen here. Okay, and finally, what is the uh, uh, objective that we are trying to achieve here? Okay, so we are trying to ensure that the detectors are able to find out the interaction between neutrinos and water particles. Okay, so when they see these flashes, they can trace the path of that neutrinos. Okay, they can find their source, they can find the energy that it contains, and even the origin of those neutrinos, right? So these are certain things that you should keep in mind. Fine. So it is already a PYQ question. Along similar lines, it has been asked. So focus on that aspect also. Fine. Chalo. The next topic is regarding again. So in today's class, we will focus on many topics which are related to the keyword first. Okay, because it's been certain time. So I just put on those keywords, and based on it, I've got some current affairs which we are trying to focus on, right? So here, see, green GDP. So Chhattisgarh becomes the first state to link forest with green GDP. Okay, so that is the services that are provided by ecosystems, they will also be now accounted for in GDP calculations. Okay, so we have learned about the same system or the same project in World Bank initiative also. Do you remember? What was it? The same concept, that is calculating the ecosystem services in your GDP calculation. It's a World Bank initiative which we have already discussed in one of the classes. If you remember, have you heard of waves? We have discussed this, if you remember, in one of the classes. I think in UNEP we discussed, right? Wealth accounting. Okay, so it is along the same parameters that it is being implemented. Okay, so here also the same thing, that is green GDP. Here you are focusing on environmentally adjusted gross domestic product. Okay, so to your net domestic product, you are also calculating what would be the cost of depletion of natural resources and the degradation of ecosystem that has happened. Okay, so here remember this aspect, state, unique keyword is there, so please go through it. Fine. Okay, come to the next topic. The next topic is an initiative of Niti Aayog, that is asset platform. Now here why we are focusing on this specific topic is because it deals with renewable energy. Okay, that is transition or ensuring the transition of states in renewable energy. Okay, so it's a very unique initiative, unique purpose, focus on the purpose. That is more than sufficient. Okay, so here asset platform is there. Yeah, initiative of Niti Aayog, Ministry of Power and Ministry of Renewable Energy. Now, what is the initiative all about? It is planning to support states in accelerating their green transition. So basically three parameters. It focuses on three parameters. First is the state should provide a comprehensive transition blueprint. That is how they will transition towards green energy. The second is the platform basically focuses on investing or developing those projects which are sustainable in the long run. And third is basically focusing on finding technologies, emerging technologies, okay, or finding innovation in emerging technologies. So these are basically the three parameters in which this platform is being developed. Okay, so the intent is to ensure that handholding support can be given to states so as to transition them towards cleaner energy. Okay, so focus on this aspect, that is important. Fine. So what you will focus on? Three parameters here. What is the purpose? That is sufficient. Fine. Okay, the next one. Now this one is very, very important for you. That is the World Meditation Day. Okay. So here the United Nations General Assembly has passed a resolution designating December 21st as the first ever World Meditation Day. Okay, so here in UPSC, the same aspect can be asked in assertion reason based question. Okay, so the date also you should remember, it is December 21st, first ever World Meditation Day. So here basically the the recognition has been made कि yes, if you want to maintain a high standard of life, you should focus not just on the physical but also the mental health. Okay, so that is basically the premise. So here they have acknowledged the link between yoga and meditation and how it is related to health and well-being. Okay, so here the date is very, very important. First ever, it's very important from your prelim standpoint. Fine. Okay, if this is clear. Okay, now this one is again very important for your prelims this year. Right, so here based on Kumbh Mela, we have a question for you. I have framed a question for you. Read the question, tell me which statements do you think might be correct here. Okay, three statements are given here. Which statements might be correct here? So currently you might have heard of why this is important. It's important from the interview standpoint also and from your prelim standpoint also because we have the Mahakumbh Mela, right? Exactly, 12 years. Okay, so it's very important. Tell me which statements are correct here. 1 and 2, okay. What about others? What do you think? 2, 1 and 3. 2 and 3. And 2, 2 only. Okay. 2 and 3, right. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah. Okay, so first let's go through the content and then we will try to come back to the question. Okay. So here when we talk about Kumbh Mela, yes, the origin of the Kumbh Mela has been attributed to Adi Shankaracharya. And right now, why we are focusing on it? Because the Mahakumbh is there, right? So here, all the questions that have been asked in the exams till date, they have focused specifically on the four important places. Okay, so remember it, and the order also you should know. Okay, that is Haridwar, Ujjain, Nasik, and then finally Prayagraj. Okay, so currently Mahakumbh Mela is going to take place from January 13 or 14. That is, it takes place every 12 years. Okay, now this dates that are there, it is based on the movements of Moon, Sun, as well as Jupiter here, right? Now, what else should you know here? You should also know the rivers that are associated with the cities here. Okay, so for example, Ujjain, that is Narmada, Nasik, Godavari, Haridwar, that is Ganga, and finally Prayagraj. Okay, that is the confluence of the three rivers, right? So focus on this aspect also. Now, when you talk about the Mahakumbh, which is currently going on, we are talking about 6 auspicious bathing days here. That is 3 Shahinans. Okay. Now, what is important from our prelim standpoint is the king who has been associated with popularizing Kumbh Mela. Okay, now this one again, it is something which is of a contradictory nature, but based this content I've taken based on different PSC exams. Okay, so the correct answer that they have given is basically King Harshavardhana. Okay, so there might be disputes regarding the same, but they have given this as the answer. Okay, that is the one who is considered to have started this, the first king who has associated with Kumbh Mela. Okay, and this has been observed by Hyun Sang also. Okay, now the second aspect that you should mention is yes, it has been mentioned even in Ashoka Pillar. Okay, so Kumbh Mela again mentioned in Allahabad inscriptions of the Ashoka Pillar. This also you should know. Again, pillars, Ashokan pillars have been asked multiple times in your UPSC. So focus on these three content from your prelim standpoint. Okay. Now, apart from this, yes, Kumbh Mela is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Yes, the year is also important this year, that is 2017. Okay. And Mahatma Gandhi is supposed to have participated in the Mahakumbh Mela in 1918. Okay. So focus on these. These are all prelims facts that you should know. Fine. Now, based on what we have learned, tell me which statements are correct here. It would be two only. Fine. So focus on this aspect, important. Here the year is also very important this year. Okay, so that is why focus on that. Chalo. Come to the next one. The next one is, yes, again, Ganges River dolphin. Why we are focusing on it? Because yes, Ganges River dolphin tagged for the first time in India again. Okay. Now why have they been tagged? The reason is so as the government can focus on their migratory patterns. So what the government has observed is there has been a steady decline in the numbers of Ganges River dolphins. Okay, so basically it's now an initiative of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and Wildlife Institute of India. Okay, so they have come across and they have tagged Ganges River dolphins so as to study the respective patterns, migratory patterns, and at the same time, then it would be evidence-based conservation strategies so that evidence-based conservation strategies could be followed. Okay, so when we talk about Ganges River dolphin, again, they are limited to these areas, right? These river systems. Okay, so unique because they are nearly blind and relies on echolocation. Fine. So focus on this. The next theme, yeah, this also very important from your prelim standpoint. That is Khwaja Moinuddin Chisti. Okay, so this is already a UPSC question, already asked. Okay. So tell me here, who was the first Sultan to visit the shrine of Khwaja Moinuddin Chisti? So this is directly a PSC question. There are only four options. Akbar. Tughlaq. Okay. Yes. So here basically it is Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the first Sultan, right? After that, yes, Akbar was also there. Even Iltutmish was there. But the first Sultan to visit the shrine is Muhammad bin Tughlaq. You should know this fact. Fine. Now, why are we covering this topic? Because you might have recently heard of the issues associated with Ajmer Dargah, right? So that is the reason we are covering this topic. Anyways, Sufism is a very important topic from your prelim standpoint. You have to prepare it thoroughly. Fine. So here when we talk about Moinuddin Chisti, yes, born in Sistan, a province in Persia. And what should you focus on? Based on PYQs, you should focus on his mentor, you should focus on his disciple. Okay, both of them are important. Okay, so here his mentor is Khwaja Usman Haruni. Okay, whereas his first disciple was Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar. Right now, based on after learning spirituality, then he moved from basically Persia to Lahore, and finally he came down to Ajmer. Okay, so he was popularly known as Garib Nawaz, that is benefactor of the poor. Okay, so here what you should focus on is his place of birth, his mentor, and finally who was his first disciple. Okay, now what is this is very very important from your prelim standpoint. Okay, that is Chisti order. Okay, so here again, Chisti order founded by. So when in UPSC, the last time this question was asked, it was directly attributed to Moinuddin Chisti. Okay, so that is not correct. It is Chisti order was founded by Abu Ishaq Shami. Okay, and here in the town of Chist near Herat. Okay. Now, among the prominent disciples of Moinuddin Chishti, so yes, it is Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar, and he is the one who is responsible for establishing the Chishti order in Delhi. Okay, and he is also the one who was the spiritual guru of Iltutmish. Okay, so remember this aspect. Why it is important? Because again, from your UPSC standpoint, it becomes contemporary. You might have heard of this question, right? That is, Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar was contemporary to Iltutmish. Okay, so those kind of statements also you should be able to answer, right? So here he was the spiritual guru of Iltutmish, and finally his disciple Baba Farid. Okay, he was the one who was responsible for establishing the Chishti order in Punjab. Okay, finally after this you have Nizamuddin Aulia. Again, his shrine is in Delhi, and his disciple Chirag Dehlavi. Okay, so remember all these names. Who is the mentor? Who is the disciple? Their contemporary times also you should know. Okay, who was the king who was there in the contemporary time? Okay, those kind of questions have been asked as it was last asked in 2015. Okay, so focus on this aspect. Fine. Now Akbar is the one who is supposed to have revered Moinuddin Chisti. Fine. So here again, what all you will remember, the Chisti order established by Abu Ishaq Shami. Okay. It was propagated, or it was celebrated in India. It was propagated in India by Moinuddin Chisti. His first disciple is Bakhtiyar. Okay, Kutubuddin Bakhtiyar. He is the one who is responsible for setting up the base in Delhi. Okay, he also is the mentor of Iltutmish. Finally, his disciple is Baba Farid, who is responsible uh, for spreading this in Punjab. Fine. Finally, you have Nizamuddin Aulia and his successor Chirag Dehlavi. Okay, so please focus on all these facts. Fine, very important from your prelim standpoint. Okay, the next topic, another topic which is very important, that is 1924 Belgaum session. Okay, so here why this is important, because 100 years have passed and it was the only session that was presided by Gandhi. Okay, so here again, what should you know? The outcomes of this session is very important that you should focus on. Fine. So first, let us deal with the historical aspect of it. When we talk about the Belgaum session, what should you focus on? So it is not that Gandhi visited Belgaum in 1924 for the first time. It was for the first time it happened in 1916, and it was to attend a meeting of Home Rule League. Okay, so it was to attend the first session of the Home Rule League. He came. Okay, so Gandhi was invited after his return from South Africa to attend the first session in Belgaum. Okay, so many Congress leaders opposed it, but finally Gandhi did go there, and that was how Gandhi visited the first time Belgaum in 1916. Okay, after that he visited it 3 more times, and the last time was in 1924. Okay, so why this session is important? Because it is the only session of the Indian National Congress chaired by Mahatma Gandhi. Fine. Now, what you should focus on is what were the key themes that were covered under the Belgaum session. Okay, so one is Swaraj, second is Sarvodaya. Most important aspect is Khadi and local industries. Okay, unity across religious and caste lines, and democratization of the Congress structure. Okay, so it is here that Gandhi ensured that Congress was now open to all. The fees that was needed to become a member of the Congress was drastically reduced. Okay, so 2-3 important aspects that you should focus on is the organizational reforms within Congress. It was brought forth in the Belgaum session. Okay, so here annual membership fee was reduced by 90%. Okay, the second important aspect is Khadi and village industry. It was promoted. The third most important and a unique statement that you should know is the advocacy for linguistic reorganization of states. This was also discussed under the Belgaum session. Okay, that is, formation of states should happen based on linguistic lines. Okay, so this was again 1924. Okay, then finally Hindu Muslim unity, that is there. Emphasis on paid social service and sanitation campaign, water management initiative, okay, and urban development. Okay, so when you talk about this session, what you should keep in mind is the concept of Sarvodaya, the concept of promotion of khadi industries, the structural change that was brought in the Congress, and the most important aspect, that is linguistic reorganization of states, the demand, the resolution for the same passed in Belgaum session. Okay, so focus on these four parameters. Those are more important from your prelim standpoint. 100 years, you have to cover the same. Fine. So if this is clear. Okay, now we come to the next topic from a science-based point of view, something known as mirror microbes. Okay. So which of the following could be the potential applications of mirror microbes? The five statements given. You can take a guess. Which statements do you think might be correct here? Nee, multiple options could be correct. Okay, could be correct. 1 to 5, all 1 to 5. All. Okay. So this one I think you'll not be able to get. Okay, so we'll just jump into the content part of it and then we'll see. Okay. So first and the foremost thing, why is it in news? Okay, you should know the context in which this is important. See, when we talk about mirror microbes, basically what is happening is, for example, if any chemical is there, right? So let's say if, yeah, so some chemical is here like this. Okay. So what is happening here is there could be a mirror element of it also, mirror chemical of it also. That is, this C will be here, right? This C will be here, this C will be here, right? Similarly, what happens is in microbes also, now what the scientists are doing, they are finding the basic elements that are there in microbes, in bacteria, and they are creating another set of bacteria based on mirror elements. Okay, so for example, if I say, if we say we are, let's say amino acids are there, right? So in the mirror element, in the mirror dimension, what happens is there is something which is of a totally different structure. Okay, the chemical component is of a totally different structure. So what these scientists are doing is they are creating microbes which are just mirrors of each other. Okay, they are using the building blocks which are mirror images of their natural counterparts. Okay, now why are they in news? So what happens is generally when you say, let's say this chemical, whatever this chemical is there, let's say if it is a good antibiotic. Okay, what happens is when I use the chemical, the mirror image of this chemical, it may not be antibiotic. It may so happen that it is totally harmful for human consumption. It can happen, it could have that drastic difference. Okay, so again I'm repeating, and let's say chemical element is there, the mirror image of that, okay, that could be a different chemical element. It may or may not be naturally found. Okay, but the purposes would be totally different. One would be, one may be beneficial, one may be totally harmful to the environment. Okay, so now when scientists, what they are doing is they are first finding out what are the building blocks of microbes, and then they are creating mirror images of it, mirror chemicals of it, and creating mirror microbes, just opposite of it. Okay, so now there has been there has been allegations by the, or there has been basically, there has been mentions that is these kind of mirror microbes may be totally harmful to the human life. Okay, so you focus on that aspect more. Okay, so it just because some microbes may be beneficial, the mirror microbes of it may not be beneficial. Okay, it may have certain functions, but it will be totally drastically harmful to the humans. Okay, so that is a possibility, and that is why it is there in news, mirror microbes. Okay, so there are certain functions of it, definitely. That is, they may have certain industrial resilience. That is, they may be much more resilient than their actual microbes. Okay, so mirror microbes may be much more resilient to chemical decomposition. Okay, they may reduce risk of contamination. There could be improved biochemical reaction also, but at the same time there is potential risk also. That is, they may be able to easily evade your immune system. Okay, they may be resistant to natural predators also, and it could be a basic tool for bioterrorism also. Okay, so this news, why it is a news? Because so as to ensure, the scientists are saying we need to regulate the creation of mirror microbes. Okay, so it should not be just, it should be regulated, and it should be in a very controlled atmosphere so as to ensure it does not harm the humans. Okay, so it is in this context that this is important. Okay, so whenever we talk about mirror microbes, they may be much more resilient than the original ones. Okay, but at the same time, from the human standpoint, they may not be much better. Okay, so here, remember, enhancing industrial fermentation process, yes, it can happen because they tend to last longer than original microbes. Okay, they may develop resilient bacteria for chemical decomposition, yes, they may last longer, but all other aspects with respect to humans, it is negated. Okay, so there are many scientists who are calling out the scientific community to regulate the same, the synthesis of these synthetic bacteria that are known as mirror microbes. Okay, so I hope this is very clear. So just know the application part of it, in what context this is in news. Accordingly, you can read about. Fine. Okay, sure. So the next topic, another very important topic that you have is UN Convention on Cybercrime. Okay, now why this topic is important? Because the UN General Assembly has adopted this Convention on Cybercrime, and it is right now open for signature. Okay, so the convention will open for signature at a formal ceremony to be hosted by Vietnam in 2025. So once it has been ratified by 40 countries, this convention will come into play. Okay, so here this General Assembly was widely accepted. This convention was widely accepted and it was adopted without a vote. And currently, what you should know here is the function aspect of it. What is the purpose? The purpose is to control online child sexual abuse, sophisticated online scams, as well as money laundering. Okay, so the target is particularly developing countries, and which is the secretariat which is going to be there. That is UN Office on Drugs and Crime. Okay, so it was just 2 weeks back it was adopted. Even, sorry, 1 week back it was adopted, and now they will be open to vote. So by the time you will write prelims, this will be in news and you should prepare for the same. Fine. Okay. The next topic is Mission Mawsum. So now here Mission Mawsum, again, one is already there in Ministry of Culture. This one is the initiative of Ministry of Earth Sciences. Okay. So what is this mission focusing on? Basically, so as to ensure that India is basically climate resilient. Okay, that we have climate smart, we become weather ready and climate smart by 2026. Okay, so how do we do the same? So here they are trying, through Mission Mawsum, they are trying to enhance the capabilities of, or capacity building, and they want to ensure they are setting up next generation radars, all of it. Okay, so as to ensure the forecasting is much more better. Okay, now what you should know here is something known as cloud chamber. So under the same mission, India is building. Okay, so India is building cloud chamber here. And what is cloud chamber? Cloud chamber is nothing but an area or a cylindrical area where you're creating the right conditions for clouds to be formed. Okay, so that you can study monsoons as well as seeding technology also. Okay, so remember this aspect. This comes under mission MOSM itself. Okay, so cloud chamber is, it resembles a closed cylinder inside which water vapor aerosols all are injected. Okay, and under desired humidity, a cloud can develop. So you are basically trying different formations here under what conditions clouds are formed so that it will help in better forecasting. Okay, so that is the purpose of mission MOSM. Okay, now here, yes, the what is the objectives of the mission? Yeah, so implement or develop cutting edge weather surveillance technologies, implement next generation radars, and implement high performance computers here. Okay, so here, this is the purpose. Now, which are the three institutions which are involved with mission MOSM? Okay, so here we are talking about three: IMD, and then there are other two also that you can go through. That is Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology is there, and there is one more. Okay, so basically the objective of this mission is to ensure that India has climate resilient weather models and we are able to forecast it at a much precise rate. Fine. Okay, come to the next topic. Now this topic is important. Okay, that is pair initiative. Okay, so again, three statements given. You can tell me which statements do you think might be correct here. That is Partnership for Accelerated Innovation and Research Initiative. One and three. What about others? One, two, one, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Let's go through the content first, and then we'll come back to this. Okay. So see, now the next 5, 6 slides that we are going to learn, they are all very important from your prelim standpoint. Okay. Because we are talking about basically research in higher education institutions. Okay, so this becomes very, very important from your prelim standpoint. All the three topics that we are going to discuss from here. Okay, so the first topic we will discuss is one nation, one subscription here. Okay, so here again, what is the scheme all about? The scheme is that is you're trying to ensure that all eligible students, faculty members, researchers, and scientists, they are able to access their top tier international research articles. Okay, so here generally to have access to these articles, you need to get subscription. So here through this scheme, what the government is doing is government is paying up the upfront. It is paying up the subscription fees basically. Okay, and it is ensuring that all these research articles are available to all eligible students as well as researchers. Okay, so the benefits of this initiative will be provided to all higher educational institutions under the central as well as state government. and R&D institutions of the central government. Okay, so open to all higher educational institutions also. Okay, now what is the priority? Yes, access to scholarly knowledge, inclusion of diverse institutions. Now, what is important is this point. So, under this initiative, there is discounts being provided for article processing charges. Now, what does it mean? Generally, if a researcher has to publish a journal, he has to pay certain amount to the publishers so as to print his journals. Okay, so here under this initiative, what is happening is the government is giving upfront or it is bargaining for lower article processing charges. Okay, so what it will result in, that Indian publishers or Indian researchers, they can publish their work in high quality journals directly. Okay, so they will not have to incur the financial cost, or they will not have to pay the necessary amounts to publishers to publish these journals. It will be taken, or the amount has been reduced substantially. Okay, so that is one aspect that you should know. Okay, so one is it is provided to all students, all researchers, everything. The second aspect is to all higher educational institutions under center as well as state. The third one is even for researchers, if they want to publish their articles or their research in journals, they can do so without incurring heavy financial cost. Okay, now this entire subscription process that is there, which the government is will be giving upfront, it will be centrally coordinated by InfluMnet, that is Information and Library Network. Okay, so it is an autonomous inter-university center under UGC. Okay, so all the journals that are there, they will be entirely accessible, and it will be on a digital platform which is named as One Nation, One Subscription Portal. Okay, so this is something that you should note. And at the same time, this scheme basically will complement the existing Anusandhan National Research Foundation. Okay, so this one again, another entity which has been created with the intent to provide infrastructure in state and central universities. Okay, so this scheme is basically trying to complement this same. Okay, so here two, three important aspects we have discussed here, and finally it will be coordinated by this one. Okay, now the next one is Anusandhan National Research Foundation. So this one also, again, it was recently replaced. Okay, it recently replaced the Science and Engineering Research Board. Okay, so here also the purpose is the same. The purpose is to ensure that the infrastructure gap that is there in state and central universities is taken care of. Okay, the second aspect that you should focus on is this foundation, that is National Research Foundation. It focuses not just on government funding, but it prioritizes non-government funding also, that is from private sectors. Okay, so that is how it is different from the earlier one. Okay, so here it will facilitate timely dispersal of funds, reduce bureaucratic hurdles, and the budget is 50,000 crores over 5 years, and the government contribution is only 14,000, and the rest must be raised from non-government sources. So what the government is thinking is the private players should take up the mantle and fund research in the state and central universities. Fine. Now the third aspect here is this ANRF that is there, it will be supporting only lower technology readiness levels. That is those projects which are at the base level, which are basically focusing on only certain basic changes in research. Okay, so when we talk about technology readiness levels also, there are multiple tiers of it. Okay, so for example, if you're just observing something and your research is just based on some observation, it comes under TLR1, TRL1. Okay, but if you have created some prototypes, if you have made it into a proper product, then it comes under a higher category, that is TRL9, 8, all of it. Okay, so the Anusandhan National Research Foundation is basically focusing on the lower ones, that is lower technology readiness levels, because our current academic institutions focuses on what? this type of research. Okay, so here capital requirement is also low. The failure rates may be higher, and they also contribute significantly to the long-term projects. Okay, so currently we are focusing on this, and with time we will transition to upper levels. Okay, so two, three important aspects, keep this in mind. Fine. Now, the next one is the pair initiative. Now, this one is very, very important. So here it is ANA. Under which ministry? Acha. Under which ministry is this one? This is okay, Science and Technology. Fine. So now to promote the objectives of ANRF, it has launched recently, just 1 week back, it has launched this initiative, that is PAIR initiative, that is Partnership for Accelerated Innovation and Research. Okay. Now, why this is important from your prelim standpoint is it has multiple contents which are too technical and which would be which can be easily manipulated by the examiner. So that is why we are focusing on this. Okay. So here also the intent is the same, to enhance research capabilities of universities of center and state. Now, what is the initiative all about? So the initiative is based on the hub and spoke model. Okay. So here a hub university will be there and it will collaborate with certain other universities. Okay. So the program will be fully funded by central government through this foundation. Okay. Now there are certain categories given here regarding what should be the criteria for hub institution. Okay. So here for hub institution, these institutions should be ranked in the top 25 national institutional ranking framework. Okay. So they should have significant research capabilities. And in the spoke institutions, it would be central universities and state universities, which are in the lower rank. That is, they should be within 200 NIRF. Okay, so just remember this aspect. At the same time, there are certain other universities which are not under NIRF. They are also eligible for spoke institutions. Okay, so for the hub model, it will be only those institutions which are less than 25 under NIRF. For spoke ones, it could be less than 200. You should be within 200 NIRF. Okay, if you're not ranked also, but you want to collaborate, you can do the same. You are also eligible for spoke institutions. Okay, so here NITs, Indian Institute of Information Technology. Okay, so they are all eligible for spoke institutions. Fine. Now, how would this pair network work? So there would be a hub model and there would be 3 to 7 spoke institutions. Now, here again, based on this parameter, only one proposal will be taken from each of these hubs. Okay. So yeah, Ketan, what I was saying is basically in this pair network, you will have one hub and 3 to 7 spoke institutions. Okay. And it would be multidisciplinary in nature. Okay. It would be multidisciplinary in nature. And then you are supposed to uh, give projects for the same. You are supposed to work on research projects for the same. Okay. So what is the initiative all about? So currently what is happening? If a research is happening, let's say in IIT, let's say IIT Madras, right? So it will happen only on this institution. Okay. The same research may be there in another institution. Okay. There may be in some NIT also. The same research may be going on. Okay. So what this initiative does is it basically makes this a hub, this a spoke, so that they can collaborate together and work on the same. So it ensures the duplication of efforts is not happening. Is this clear, Ketan? Right. So that is the purpose of partnership for accelerated innovation and research. Okay. So remember this, very unique and headed by, it was recently decided when, which was headed by the Prime Minister himself. Okay. So it is very important. So now tell me here, which statements are correct here based on the content that you know. The PAIR initiative aims to enhance research capabilities in center and state public institutions where research is in nascent stage. This one would be correct or false? This is correct. Okay. Yeah, central and public universities must hold an NIRF ranking to qualify for the initiative. This is false. Okay. That is, even those institutions which do not have NIRF, but they have enough research capabilities, they can qualify under the initiative and they will be the spoke institutions. Okay. Now, each pair network consists of hub and spoke model. That is correct. Okay. Now, here also, to increase the diversity here, the institution, one of these spoke institutions can be located outside the state of hub. That is also correct. Okay. So please go through this. This is again important. One nation, one subscription, very important. ANRF recently formed, very important. And finally, an initiative of ANRF, again important. Okay. So all three very important. Please go through it. Fine. Okay. Now coming to the next one. Yeah. So here two statements are given. Tell me which statements do you think might be correct here? Something regarding climate accountability matrix. You can take guess. No problem. Two. Okay. Two. All right. So let's see here. Actually, both the statements are correct here. Okay. Both statements are correct. So why we are focusing on this specifically? Because it is something which has been developed by what? Council on Energy, Environment and Water. This is located where? We are talking about this is in India itself, right? So it's basically an assessment tool which is from the global south. Okay, so currently whatever assessment tools, climate mitigation tools we have, they are all on the basis of a West approach, right? So here we are basically focusing on a tool which is made from the global south and it analyzes countries performance in not just mitigation but also adaptation and how they are implementing the same means of implementation. Do they have the necessary means to adapt to the climate change, right? So here this is basically the aspect here. Okay, so this is just basically an assessment tool developed by this and what is the purpose you should know. Now it categorizes based on country's performance into four basic parameters. And what it has observed, the report has said, none of the G20 members, they have qualified as leaders in ensuring climate mitigation. Okay, climate adaptation, mitigation, all of it. Okay, so they are all basically here. It is India and South Africa which has performed the best in this under this matrix. Okay, so developed by focus on it and finally the purpose of it. Okay, now the next one is biobitumen, that is bioasphalt. So here why we are focusing on it, because again India's first biobitumen based national highway stretch. Okay, developed in or inaugurated in NH44 in Nagpur. Okay, so here we are trying to basically find a substitute for bitumen because bitumen we are basically importing. So when we talk about biobitumen, it is derived from renewable sources. Okay, and it is an alternative to traditional bitumen. Okay, so because of which again our dependence on petroleum reduces substantially. And again, it is a renewable source. It is derived from renewable sources. Okay. So the use of biobitumen, it stimulates biorefineries, creating opportunities for revenue generation. Okay. So your first keyword is there, focus on it. Now, when we talk about biobitumen, again, they are created in multiple ways. One of the ways is also pyrolysis oil. That is, you're simply heating up the forest residues without oxygen. Okay, so that is one of the ways in which you can create this is pyrolysis oil. Okay, so now why this is in news? Because it is under investigation as a substitute for petroleum. So currently there are multiple issues with the same. Okay, the level of oxygen content is very high under pyrolysis oil, because of which it is highly non-volatile. Okay, so there are certain ways in which you can make them into an hydrocarbon, but currently it is not uh, a fit for substitute as a substitute for petroleum. Okay, but still studies are going on regarding the same. That is why we have covered it. Okay, so it is kind of a tar and normally contains high levels of oxygen. Now, because of which they are non-volatile, they are corrosive in nature, and they are highly thermal unstable. Okay, but if you remove oxygen from them, then you can use them for as a fuel purposes. So that is known as upgrading. That removing process is known as upgrading. Fine, but it's just given, so just cover the same. Fine. All right, coming to the next topic. Yeah, India has set up its first ever diabetes biobank. Okay, now this one I think you can take a logical guess where it would be based on our medicine advancements. Which one will you go with? Medicine advancements. Okay. So when we talk about medicine advancements, we are talking about Chennai. Yes. Okay. Where medical tourism happens, right? So yes, diabetes biobank. Yes, India has set up the first ever diabetes biobank in Chennai. Collaboration between ICMR and Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. Okay. Now, why focusing on this? Because yes, India is often called the diabetes capital of the world. Okay. Now, from your prelim standpoint, what should you focus on is basically the factors involved, the symptoms, and the complications. Okay, this is what has been asked in UPSC. Not diabetes has not been asked, but other diseases when they have been asked regarding the factors which cause the same. Okay, so here also focus on these parameters. Fine. Yeah. Coming to the next topic is Green National Highway Corridor Project. So it is basically a World Bank project focusing on specific states. That is Himachal Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, and Andhra Pradesh. So here, why the term green national highway? Because they are trying to reuse, okay, reuse the already existing materials that are there in the roads. Okay, so that is the way in which they are trying to conserve natural resources. So as to they're basically reclaiming asphalt pavement. Okay, so they will be reusing it instead of putting or instead of reusing or bringing in new material. Okay, they will promote use of local marginal material, and they'll use bioengineering measures also for slope protection. Okay, so uh, coconut fiber, jute, erosion control blanket, all of it. Okay, so this is Green National Highway Corridor Project. Just remember initiative of World Bank and which states it is focusing on. Fine. Okay, the now the most important topic, that is US Panama Canal Treaty here. Okay, so here when we focus on this, again, you should, why this is important? Anyone? This is important both from, again, interview standpoint as well as prelim standpoint, Panama Canal Treaty, because we are talking about exactly Trump, right? So here you should know certain aspects of it. Okay. So here Panama Canal, we are talking about trade here. Okay, percentage, remember, it's a numerical component. You should know the same. Okay, so artificial 80-kilometer canal connecting Atlantic and Pacific Ocean and carries 6% of maritime world trade. Okay, so it was opened in 1914 and it was controlled by US till 1999. Finally, under the Carter Treaty, right? So here recently you might have heard of Jimmy Carter also. That is the former president, right, who has passed. So it was under his presidency the canal was handed over to Panama in 1999. Okay, so here there are two major treaties that you should keep in mind. One is Permanent Neutrality Treaty. If at all it is asked, UPSC will focus on this one. Okay, Permanent Neutrality Treaty, basically here it declares Panama Canal is neutral and it will be open for all vessels of all nations. Okay, so US has the right to defend the neutrality of the Panama Canal and have priority passage in military emergencies, right? So here, remember this one, this much is more than sufficient from your prelim standpoint. Okay. Now, from your prelim standpoint, other aspects that you should remember is the important leaks, right? So that also keep in mind. I've just mentioned it here in news, so cover it, right? Now, apart from this, the other lock systems which are evident or which are working or which are associated with what? Again, Panama Canal. Okay. So these are basically lock systems which are necessary, which have to be in place so as to ensure the sufficient buoyancy is created so that ships can travel between two different heights. Okay, that is basically when we talk about canal system and the ocean system, they are in two different heights. So basically that works along these lines. So this is the lock system. Okay, so again, from your prelim standpoint, focus on the treaty, focus on the geographical aspect of it, and focus on the working. Okay, the locks aspect of it. That is more than sufficient. Fine. All right, so with that, I end the class today. Okay, now in today's class, we learned very important things. There are important aspects that you should focus on. One was the neutrinos. Okay, very important, already asked. Okay, what other topics were there? One was Chisti, Manudin Chisti, very important. Mela, Kumbh Mela, important. Okay, pair initiative, research institutions, all of it are very important. Okay, all three of them. 1924. Okay, 100 years have passed. Mirror microbes, the application part of it is very important. You should know they are not beneficial for human life. Okay, World Mediation Day, first time. Okay, for the first time that is happening, that is important. Okay, so these are certain, green GDP also. Okay, the first state to accommodate the same. Okay, so these are important topics that you should focus on. Okay, biobitumen is there and Panama is also there. Okay, so these topics give specific focus on for your prelims this year. Fine. All right, so with that, I end the class. If you have any doubt, you can stay back. The rest of you can leave. The class for today is over.